We live in Brooklyn, baby. We live in Brooklyn, baby.
We can touch upon that. I mean, it's a pretty technical story, but it's just basically, I'll just, you know, just because it's detailed and I don't want to get you into a whole bunch of expose and shit like. But it's scientists have developed lab-grown penises to help men who have congenital abnormalities or suffered traumatic injuries, the Observer has reported. The engineered penises were developed by researchers at the Wake Forest Institute for Regenerative Medicine in North Carolina, USA, and are currently awaiting approval to be tested on humans. The work is funded by the U.S. Armed Forces Institute of Regenerative Medicine, which hopes to use the technology to help soldiers with battlefield injuries. Professor Anthony Atala, director of the institute, told the Observer the target is to get the organs into patients with injuries of congenital abnormalities. The penises would be grown using a patient's own cells to avoid the risk of immunological rejection after organ transplantation. Atala previously led a successful project engineering penises for rabbits in 2008. The previous work on rabbits showed that once the tissue was there, the body recognizes it as its own. The rabbit studies were very encouraging, he said, but to get approval for humans, we need all the safety and quality assurances data. We need to show that the materials aren't toxic, and we have to spell out the manufacturing process step by step. So, I mean, I could read more, but...
Well, the part that really I found interesting was that they talked about a penis transplant. The surgery was carried out in 2005.
The Chinese, yeah, the psychological, yeah.
Yeah, yet had to be reversed because of the psychological problems experienced by the then 44-year-old man and his wife.
Now, I'm assuming...
And what the hell? Is this shit turned alive and tried to fucking stab him?
No, I don't know how this shit started fucking snaking around his wife's neck while he was asleep. No, I would assume, and this is just an assumption, that number one, if he had, it depends on what he had, if he had like a serious abnormality or if it was a situation where it had to be removed, he's looking at a phallus that was not his own, a penis that's not his own. So obviously psychologically, there's that component to it. And then they still, if you go down to the bottom of the article, the whole thing about it being functional. Because now if you have this thing, it's like, like they say, it's like trying to shoot pool with a rope. It's not going to happen. So now if you got this dangling thing that is not yours, a part of your body, and you could feel it, and you're feeling, I guess, your body is recognizing it must have some sensation, but it's not doing what it's supposed to do as far as in, performing at the task. I'm pretty sure it would be disorienting as well. I mean, not doing everything. I'm glad I don't have to deal with that.
What would they expect? Like, were they told that was going to work?
I don't know. I mean, we would probably have to go back and look at his particular case, which I'm pretty sure we can find. But I would just assume he probably thought it would work and it didn't, or because just think of someone. I watched this show titled The Nick on cable, and it's a pretty good show. Steven Soderbergh, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, whatever, but that guy. And there was the then technology, a woman had, I believe it was syphilis or something, and her nose had rotted off. So she had like the fucking skeleton nose and shit. So they had to take a flap and put it there and let the blood flow. Long story short, he made sure to let her know that whatever the nose would be, it wouldn't look like her nose. It would not look like. So if you think about that, and I remember the guy that shotgunned himself and he had to put his nose on his forehead. It was back in the 80s. He didn't kill himself, and he blew his fucking nose and face off, so they had to grow a new nose on his forehead and then put it back down there. It looks foreign. And every day of your life, we know what we're supposed to look like. So if there are changes, noticeable changes, we will acknowledge it, and who knows how we will receive that. And this guy probably every time he went into bed or took a shower or went to the bathroom, looked at this thing that was not the original article and probably felt some weird way about it. And then, like I said, if it didn't work, because the last line is talking about, they have to figure out whether or not, because I'll just read it. And while it is not much more complex than other transplants, doctors question whether transplants can make the organ fully functional. So it's probably that component thrown into the mix as well.
No, I dig that. I guess, like, for the woman, like, why was she messed up? I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, were you told, like, okay, he's going to have a penis again, you guys are going to have sex?
It could be disappointment, It may have raised her expectations, like, wow, we're going to be able to actually do this, and then not having it. So it's like, just having cold water thrown in your face when you thought something was going to happen. Or, she may have seen her mate suffering. And of course, if you're that close to somebody, she's going to start taking in his energy and everything. If he's all down and depressed, it's going to affect both of them. You know, so it's interesting. Like I said, I thought that was interesting, but you know, from that story about someone's meats, you know, here's another story about yo, man, New York is on some shit. A New York supermarket employee has been accused of leaving the store with $1,200 worth of meat hidden in his pants. State police said Gregory Rodriguez of Ossining is charged with 4th-degree grand larceny. Rodriguez works at the A&P in Croton on the Hudson. Police were called Monday about the theft. Rodriguez was arrested Tuesday. A state police spokeswoman, Trooper Melissa McMorris, said that the theft occurred in one day. She did not know if it involved more than one trip to the store, because that's what I wanted to know. You know, Rodriguez was arraigned Tuesday night in Cortland and sent to the Westchester County Jail. Listen, first of all,
I was about to say some high quality meats.
Or he has them hammer pants, because unless he's stealing like the top cuts of filet mignon, which are not large,
that you probably wouldn't find a name.
Exactly. Or this motherfucker looked like Hans and Franz walking out of the fucking place all packed up with meat. And then, just think of this, you know, because if anybody's handled supermarket meat, and when they, especially A&P meat, where they spray all that fake bad blood and shit, because I found out some really bad stuff about the meat packing industry here, and then some of the meat can be a year old, and they'll take blood from other sources and spray it up to try and make it look fresh and shit. And so you got all that shit running down this guy's legs, sticking to his leg hairs, and just nasty meat, and then, yo, it's like fucking Slaughterhouse Bob. And then, yo, seriously, you couldn't, you know, not to say that I know too much about this, but I know people that have stolen before. Couldn't you do the old school shit of like saying you're gonna, you know, put it in the garbage bag and say, you know, you're throwing the trash out, and then come back, you know, after hours and go rummage through the garbage, and then, you know, there's the shit that you tried that you wanted to put out? I mean, why would you think? I mean, how did he walk? How did this dude walk with $1,200 worth of meat next to his meats? And they was cold. So if you've ever had any cold, and you know, women, I don't know if you know anything about this, but fellas, I know. You jump in some cold water or some shit like that, and that shit hits your nuts, your meats, everything is just like, yo. So this dude must have had a hungry ass family at home. That barbecue must have been important.
Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Whatever, man.
Anyway, folks, that is our show today.
Yep. So we'll be back.
And trust me, you're going to want to come back next week, because...
yeah, there's some more crazy shit coming up along the line of this madness.
He's been hitting the jackpot lately.
Yeah, I got some whoppers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, that is us for the mini studio, the retro Insanity Check.
That's right. We've been giving you blessing y'all with a bunch of the retro shows, but we do got to get into one of the larger studios, because we're gonna be
back in a couple of weeks with the big show.
Yeah.
But anyway, come back next week. We'll be here. You'll be here. It'll be a good time.
And don't forget, check us out on that Facebook shit. What is that called? Insanity Check on Facebook? Or is it Insanity Check Radio on Facebook? It's Insanity Check. Insanity Check on Facebook. It's what? At Insanity Check 12 on Twitter. I'm going to go back and put these stories up. I promise you. Insanity Check Radio on Google Plus, and Insanity Check Radio on YouTube. So you can, and what am I saying? And we're Insanity Check on Instagram, Insanity Check Radio on Instagram. So we all over the fucking place, man. So just check us out, man. Throw in the comments, whatever, Google us, you'll find us. This is Ken Skillet Sauce. We'll be back next week.
Later.
We're
trying to make it